My great pleasure now to welcome Reverend Judith Elia. We're going to talk about unity, UU, and Sufism.
Hi, everyone. I'm grateful to be Zooming here with you from Bethlehem. I'm in a 500-year-old historic home. It's called Dar City Aziza. That means my grandmother Aziza's house. And my friend Nabil is giving me the great comfort of being here in this special room so that I can Zoom with you, because our internet is so unstable at Bethlehem University that I couldn't have Zoomed with you from where I actually am working. But I'm happy to be here, and I'm really happy to talk to you about Sufism, because Sufism has been a part of my life since I was in college. And I have never really given a talk on Sufism. And at this time in my life, I am actually taking a course with Pir Zia. And Pir Zia is the grandson and the lineage holder of the founder of the lineage that I am a part of. Even though I'm not an initiated Sufi, I am considered to be part of the community in every way. I've never felt like there were any restrictions. I have a name, Nuran. It means the bringer of light. And that was given to me by a Turkish Sufi by the name of Sharif Baba. But let me back up and say this. I want you to relax for a moment and imagine yourself at the turn of the last century, when unity began, when UU began, when the World's Fair happened with the very first Parliament of the World's Religions, when Americans that we love, like Emerson and Thoreau, and some Europeans, that we love as well, were all, studying Eastern mysticism. And they were enamored with what they were learning from the theosophists, like Annie Besant. She was the person that gave the talk to the largest group of people at the World's Fair. I mean, there was standing room only, and people were, standing outside, droves of people, just to hear this amazing theosophist speak about the great master's teachings. At that time, a great mystic, Hazrat Inayat Kahn, we call him Murshid Hazrat Inayat Kahn, was born. He was born in 1882. So imagine a time before faxes, sound bites, computers, cars, a time before we had telephones. This amazing human was born into the world in India to a family with a long lineage of esteemed musicians. And just around the time of the World's Fair, in 1920 to 1926, he toured with his brothers in all of the major music venues of the United States with this Indian classical music. And it was the kind of music that raised the vibration, synchronized the brain. We now know that music transcends the mind, that music can be a bridge between our body, mind, and spirit, and uplift us in ways that open our hearts, calm our minds, and allow us to entertain new possibilities. People were so enamored with Hazrat Inayat Kahn because of the vibration and because of the uniqueness. There's a funny story about him that, in Indian classical music, you really have to have an attunement. All the instruments need to be in harmony and they need to be tuned to precision. And so he was tuning his instrument. And when he finished tuning his instrument, they gave him a standing ovation. He hadn't even begun to play, but it was so intoxicating, his presence, that he gave up being a concert musician to teach people the mystical tradition of Sufism. I have to admit that I always thought Hazrat Inayat Khan's version of Sufism was the only kind of Sufism until I went to Turkey. And people thought I was crazy because I kept saying that I'm a part of the Sufi tradition and my name is Nuran. Because in Turkey, it's very different in Turkey. Even the way they describe Rumi in Turkey is different because of Orthodox Muslims and the way they see the world. A Sufi is a wandering dervish that is in the streets somewhere. And when I went to Turkey once on an interfaith gathering, the whirling dervishes that were part of Jalaluddin Rumi's tradition weren't even allowed to whirl in the Orthodox temple where Rumi's remains are. So organized religion defines Sufism maybe differently than I'm going to share with you now. All I can share with you now is the tradition I'm a part of, the tradition of Hazrat Inayat Kahn, the tradition of Pir Vilayat Khan, and the tradition of Pir Zia. Also, the tradition of the Dances of Universal Peace that were started by Samuel Lewis. And they are all part of this great American Sufi tradition that represents a dispensation of unity and universalism that was given to us specifically here in the United States and in Europe from 1920 to 1926. And to this day, I still study Hazrat Inayat Khan's messages. I'm studying The Alchemy of Happiness, a group of messages that he gave about how to achieve mental stability, the warmth of the heart, an attitude of service to humanity through these practices. And they're actually being given by Pir Zia. And I'd like to share with you now, to give you a kind of an experience of the tradition, just one simple practice. Are you willing? Yeah? Is everybody willing to try a practice with me that comes from Hazrat Inayat Khan to Pir Vilayat Khan to Pir Zia to me? So I'd like you to, take a position of openness, like you're going to meditate or, contemplate something really important. And many of you already meditate. Some of you pray or do affirmations. For me, this tradition of Sufism incorporates a lot of different things, from visualizations to contemplations to breath work. And this is just a simple glimpse into just one practice for one day. And it has to do with visualizing energy from the planets. That's where we're going to start. So close your eyes and simply visualize the planet Mercury. Visualize it as a green star. And as you see that green star in your mind's eye, just inhale, absorb the light. So you're bringing in green light. You're receiving it. And you're especially focalizing it into the center of your chest. You are being bathed in this green star of Mercury. It is up, up, up in the sky, but it's flowing down into your crown chakra, flowing into every cell and every atom of your body. And you're breathing it in. And you're moving to receive it, opening to receive it in the center of your heart. As you do this, simply observe your breath. And as you inhale, breathe in equanimity. Breathe in youthfulness. Breathe in the green light of heartfelt happiness. And with every exhale, just see that going out to the whole world, shining your green energy out to the world. With every breath out, breathing this youthfulness, this happiness, this invigorating energy out into the world. Imagine the green is the emerald green of a mystical forest. And you are breathing green. You are becoming green. You are sending green out into the world. And now, as you rest in this little bubble of emerald light, ask to see clues in the outer world. Ask to know what the clues that are being presented to you at this time in your life are to your own spiritual path. There are signs, synchronicities, intuitions. So just take a moment to see them. And let your gaze go inward and notice anything in yourself that's being born, any signs in yourself arising from within you that are clues. You are on the right path. You're awakening. And now we're going to close with just a simple intonation that means God's breath. Allahu. We're going to say it 7 times really softly. Allahu. Allahu. The breath of God. Allahu. 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 And if we were together in a group doing these practices together, we might look out at each other and go, ooh, I send you the breath of God. Ooh. So if you're on Zoom now, you can do that to your friends on Zoom. who. And if you're in the congregation, you can turn to a person next to you and say, who. You are the breath of God. I see the breath. I share my breath. I am with you in the breath of God. So that's just a little kernel of what might happen if you went on a Sufi retreat in this tradition. You might do that, what is called a zikr practice. But also in this tradition, there's something called the universal worship and the dances of universal peace. Two great gifts to the world that Hazrat Inayat Kahn and Samuel Lewis gave to the world. So the universal worship was a gift of Hazrat Inayat Kahn that he created that honors all the world religions, known and unknown. And there's many ways to do it, but the basic pattern of it is to light candles and have scripture from the world's religions and sing songs and even do dances from the different world's religions, and sometimes to bring people together, kind of like Elizabeth is doing with the interfaith service, and have the different religions take a part of a universal worship that honors everything and everyone that is blessing us to move in the direction of God, of what's good and beneficial for ourselves and all humanity. Here's what Hazrat Inayat Kahn says about what Sufism is. This is not a new religion or a new message. It's the same message of unity, which has been given to humanity again and again. Yet so few hearts are open to hear it. The Sufi movement is simply a group of people belonging to different religions who have not left their religions, but have learned to understand them better, and their love is in life, as the love for God and humanity, instead of just for a particular sect. There's a saying that I've always loved that comes from this tradition. You can't taste the honey by licking the word honey out of a book. You can't taste the honey by licking the word honey out of a book. So the emphasis in Sufism is on experiencing nature, the universal energies, people, music, dance, singing, chant, zikr. How many of you know the movement that most Islamic folk do when they do zikr? So if you don't know it, I'm going to show you, because I think it's one of the most beneficial things that we can do. And I do it all the time with all kinds of different prayers and chants and mantras. So if we were doing La ilaha illallahu, which is the traditional zikr, which means there is no God but God. And I am blessing the world and praying for the world on the breath, the who of God. When we add that little who, it's kind of just an extra sealing the deal. But La ilaha illallah means there's nothing in this world but God. God is in the leaf, in the tree, in you, in me, inner, outer, everything is God. So the zikr movement represents the circling around the earth and the circling of the planets and the circle of life. And you can do it really small, like this, just with your head, which is really good for your neck, while you do any of the mantras. Or you can do it with your whole body, which I think is really, really good for your whole spine. So you go like this. And when I was with Sharif Baba, he did what I would call aerobic sicker, which was he would have us standing in a circle and doing these movements and moving to the right and doing them faster and faster and faster. And sometimes he would have us go down and up. And so it can be very challenging, but for the most part, it is a way of connecting body, mind, spirit, music, and matter. I want to tell you a personal story that's relevant to now. I was doing my practice with Pir Zia from this Alchemy of Happiness course. And I was calling in the archangels in Arabic, which was part of the practice, and calming myself down. And the image for that day was in flying above everything that disturbs us and affirming, that I'm never alone and God is with me. And then doing, these simple little words that represented the archangels in Arabic 11 times. And then doing this zikr mantra, La ilaha illallahu, that I shared with you. So I'm here, right, in the Middle East, right? And it just felt really powerful to be doing that. And I was traveling from Jordan to Israel. And during customs, it got very scary. There was a lot of chaos. People were ordering me around, and they weren't doing it with love. It was, really obvious to me that there was something going on. There was a lot of tension, a lot of chaos. And I had heard enough stories of people being deported and people being interrogated for long periods of time that I was not my fearless self. And this one man told me to stand in front of an interrogation room after I had been ordered around by about 3 or 4 people to get this and do that and all these things, and then they would change their mind and tell me to do other things. And by the time I got told to stand in front of that interrogation room, I was terrified. And so I started calling in the archangels in Arabic and doing these zikrs and fervently praying the prayer of protection. And within a short period of time, this man behind the customs place where you get your visa checked came out and he said, "Why are you standing there?" And I said, "Because some guy told me I had to stand here to be interrogated." So he looks at my visa. He said, "You already have a visa. You just have to get on the bus." And he said, "Come with me." He said, "Why did you pay for these taxes?" I said, "Some person told me I had to." So he takes me around, gives me back my money, walks me to the bus, has me sit on the front of the bus, tells the bus driver to take care of me, and then says, "I really apologize. This is not how we usually act in Jordan," and leaves. I never saw him again. And I think back on that, and I think there is incredible power in these prayers, incredible power in our willingness to open up, to the universal energies of different traditions. I am not a Muslim. I'm not even a Sufi really, but I am in my heart, and I practice these teachings with my whole heart. And I trust Pir Zia. He is a humble, mystical, beautiful human being. And his father was the same. His father taught me many things for most of my adult life. And his father is someone that I will always treasure and esteem his words. And they have meaning as much now as they ever have for me. So, in closing, I would like to say that Sufism is the religion of the heart. It's the religion of love. And a lot like a unity symbol with the wings that Charles Fillmore created, that symbol of taking the consciousness of humanity up, the Sufi symbol is a heart with wings. Because the focus for Hazrat Inayat Kahn, the alchemy of happiness for Hazrat Inayat Kahn, is the bringing together of a quiet mind, a warm heart, and engaging in service for the world. Happiness comes from serving. Happiness comes from being still. Happiness comes from loving each other, God, nature, this world, and all others. So I'd love to take any questions that you have that I could possibly answer. I haven't talked much about the dances of universal peace, but there was a student of Hazrat Inayat Khan's named Samuel Lewis. He was recognized by religions all over the world as being an enlightened being. And he had a vision that he could bring peace through teaching the hippies the dances and the mantras and the meditations and the music of the world's religions. And then we now call them the dances of universal peace, and there's hundreds of them. But he started out with just one for the 8 major world religions, and then indigenous religions, and then other religions, known and unknown. And we call those the original Sam dances. And now there are just hundreds, possibly thousands of dances.